I never thought I'd hear those words come out of my parents' mouths. It's not our problem. Take him away. At first, I honestly thought I misheard them. They weren't talking about some random kid down the street. This was my son. Their grandson. I'd spent years bending over backward to help them. Paying their bills. Covering the rent for the garage where they kept all their clutter. Helping out whenever they needed me. And when I finally needed them, just once, for something important, they tossed me aside like it was nothing. It all started 2 weeks ago. I had to travel for work, and there was no way around it. I don't usually ask anyone for favors, let alone a long-term one, but this trip was critical. So I asked my parents if they could watch Liam, my 6-year-old. At first, they hesitated like I was asking them to move mountains. Eventually, they agreed. I told myself, they're his grandparents. How bad could it be? The first few days seemed fine. Liam would call me at night, telling me little stories, Grandma made him eat too many carrots, or Grandpa nodded off during cartoons. Normal stuff. But by the third day, the tone in his voice changed. He sounded sad. He wanted to play, but every time he asked, they told him they were too tired. I thought maybe it was just a rough day, so I told him to hang in there. Then I called my mom, expecting a rant about how hyper Liam was. Instead, she hit me with, "We're tired of babysitting. He's your kid, not ours. You need to figure this out." My jaw literally dropped. I reminded her they had agreed, 2 weeks. They'd barely made it 3 days. She wasn't budging. "We're old, Justin. We don't need this stress. We're taking him to your sister's." Emma, my sister, had no idea they were about to dump a kid on her. They hadn't even asked. I bit back my anger, told them fine, and hung up. But inside, I was seething. That night, I finally snapped. I sent them one short text, "I'm done paying your bills. That includes the $500 a month and the garage rent. Don't expect another dime." Within minutes, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree, calls, texts, voicemails. Pick up the phone. "What's going on? Justin, call us back, everything was fine." I ignored every single one. Over the next few days, I focused on my trip and checked in with Emma, who thankfully agreed to keep Liam until I returned. She was supportive. My parents? They spiraled. Dozens of calls and messages. They acted confused, like they had no idea why I'd cut them off. But then it escalated. The next morning, I woke up to a text that made my stomach twist. "If you don't answer, we're going to have to do something drastic. We need to talk." Drastic? What the hell did that mean? Probably just another manipulation tactic, I told myself. I wasn't playing their games. But later, Emma called me, her voice uneasy. "Justin, you need to know, Mom and Dad showed up at my place this morning." I froze. "What? Why?" She sighed. "They didn't say much. Just kept asking what was wrong with you. Dad acted like they were the victims here. And get this, they brought boxes. Tools. Like they were planning to move in. Mom even said something about needing space to figure things out." I rubbed my forehead. "You're kidding. They're trying to move in with you." Emma actually laughed. "Oh, hell no. I told them they weren't staying here. They stormed off eventually, but Justin, something feels off." Great. They were escalating. I tried to brush it off, but that afternoon, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. A man's voice introduced himself, "Mr. Harrison? I'm contacting you on behalf of your parents regarding a financial arrangement." I sat up straight. "Excuse me? They claim they are financially dependent on you. They'd like to negotiate terms." I almost laughed out loud. "Are you telling me my parents contacted a lawyer to force me to keep paying their bills?" There was a pause. "I'm just relaying information, sir." I hung up without another word, my mind racing. This was beyond surreal. They weren't just pushing, they were trying to make a legal case out of me cutting them off. I called my dad immediately. No small talk. "I just got a call from a lawyer. Care to explain?" He sounded calm, almost casual. "Oh, that. We just thought maybe if we talked to someone, you'd come to your senses. You're being unreasonable, Justin. You've always helped us. Why stop now?" I exploded. "Unreasonable? You tried to blackmail your own son because you didn't want to watch your grandson for 2 weeks. Do you hear yourself?" "We're not blackmailing you," he said defensively. "But we're struggling. You've paid these bills for years. We depend on it." I cut him off. "Maybe you should have thought about that before ditching Liam on Emma without even asking her. I'm done. I'm not paying another cent." His voice sharpened. "You can't just cut us off like that. We're your parents." "Exactly," I snapped. "You're my parents. Not my responsibility." And I hung up. But the circus wasn't over. That evening, Emma called again, half laughing, half exasperated. "Justin, you're not gonna believe this. Mom and Dad came back. They were literally sitting on my porch in lawn chairs when I got home. Said they weren't leaving until I called you." I groaned. "You're kidding." "Nope. I told them to leave. They threatened to cut me out of the will. You'd think they were billionaires, the way they said it." We both laughed, but my chest was tight. This was spiraling out of control. And yet, I wasn't backing down. Not this time. Emma and I made a decision right then. If they wanted to play games, fine. But we were about to flip the script. They weren't ready for what we had planned next. And trust me, what came next shocked even me. When I finally came home 10 days later, the first stop I made was Emma's house. I barely made it through the front door before Liam spotted me. He bolted across the room and leapt into my arms, hugging me so tight I thought he might never let go. That moment alone reminded me why I had fought so hard in the first place. Emma, meanwhile, wasted no time filling me in. Over cups of coffee in her kitchen, she told me all about our parents' latest stunts, unannounced visits, endless guilt trips, and even a dramatic speech about how family bonds were being torn apart. I rolled my eyes so hard it almost hurt. "They're desperate," Emma said flatly, stirring her mug. I snorted. Funny how their health and spirits only seem to collapse when their wallets do. We shared that sibling look, the one that says, "Yeah, we've seen this circus before." Emma had fought her own battles with them, but they rarely took her seriously. Probably because she wasn't the one covering their bills all these years. Now that the cash flow had dried up, though, they were scrambling for any scrap of leverage. After catching up, I took Liam home. He seemed okay, cheerful, chatty, but kids notice more than we think. From the back seat, his little voice piped up. "Dad, are Grandma and Grandpa mad at us?" That one cut deep. I caught his eyes in the rearview mirror. "No, buddy. They're just upset because I made a decision they didn't like. None of this is your fault, okay?" He nodded, but I could tell he was still turning it over in his mind. The next morning, the storm started again. Call after call, buzzing nonstop. I ignored the first 5, but by the 6th, I sighed and picked up. "Justin," my mom's voice rang out, sugary sweet. "Too sweet. We just want to talk. You can't keep shutting us out." "What's there to talk about?" I said flatly. "You've made your choices, and I've made mine. I'm done paying your bills. End of story." "Don't be like that," she pleaded. "You're putting us in a terrible position. We've been struggling since you cut us off. Your father's even having chest pains from the stress." I laughed bitterly. "Really? Chest pains? Do you know what usually causes chest pains? Maybe it's from trying to guilt trip your own son when you're perfectly fine." Her tone snapped like a whip. The fake sweetness dropped instantly. "This isn't a joke, Justin. We raised you, and this is how you repay us." "Raised me?" I shot back. "Emma and I basically raised ourselves. You only show up when you want something. And now that I'm not your personal bank, suddenly I'm the villain?" "We're family," she insisted. "Family support each other." "Exactly," I snapped. "And where was your support when I needed you? You couldn't handle 3 days of babysitting without a meltdown and dumping Liam on Emma." The line went quiet. Finally, she muttered, "You're being unfair. We're old. We have limits." "And so do I said. "I'm done arguing. We're finished here." I hung up and switched my phone off. I was done letting them play me. Over the next week, their tactics grew more pathetic. They pestered Emma with sob stories, left me voicemails about how ungrateful their children were, and even sent a letter dripping with melodrama about how they'd never forgive me unless I changed my mind. Emma and I laughed about it, but we both knew they weren't finished. And sure enough, one afternoon, they pulled their boldest move yet. I opened my front door to find them standing there. Both looked tired, clothes a little rumpled, eyes desperate. "We just want to talk," my dad said, shifting uncomfortably. Against my better judgment, I let them in. They sat on the couch like 2 kids waiting to be scolded, fidgeting with their hands. "We've been thinking," Mom began, eyes wide, trying to look sincere. "And maybe we were a little harsh." I arched an eyebrow. "A little?" She pressed on. "We've been under stress. But we don't want to fight anymore. Let's work something out. Maybe compromise?" "Compromise," I repeated slowly. "You mean you want me to start paying your bills again?" No, she said quickly, hands waving. "Not that. Just, maybe help with a few things here and there. We're not asking for much." I studied her. The performance was almost impressive, but I'd seen it too many times before. They weren't apologizing, they were maneuvering. Hoping I'd cave if they acted meek. "I'll think about it," I said evenly, knowing full well I wouldn't give them a single cent. They left shortly after, mask slipping, clearly disappointed. Later that night, I told Emma what happened. She burst out laughing. "They really think they can sweet-talk you back into being their ATM? Unbelievable." "Yeah," I said, shaking my head. "Well, they're about to learn the hard way. I'm done being their bank." This time, I wasn't bluffing. I was standing my ground. A few days later, my phone lit up again, Mom's number flashing across the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said to pick up. Her voice was softer this time, almost trembling. "Justin," she began, "we've been thinking a lot about everything. We want to apologize. For real this time. We were stubborn, and we're sorry for the way we treated you and Liam." I sat there, silent. Was this just another trick? Another setup? She pressed on before I could answer. "We'd like to invite you and Emma over for dinner. Just the 4 of us. No pressure. No arguments. We just want to work things out." I hesitated. Every red flag in my body told me this could be another performance, but part of me wanted to believe they were finally coming around. Besides, one last chance wouldn't hurt, right? When I told Emma, she raised an eyebrow so high I thought it might stay there. "If they pull any more stunts, I'm done," she warned. That evening, we drove over together. The moment I stepped inside, the smell hit me: baked chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy. The classic family dinner spread. For half a second, it almost felt like old times. Liam was staying with a friend, so it was just us adults. Mom greeted us with a smile that looked rehearsed. "We're so glad you both came," she said, setting down a steaming plate. Dad chimed in, "It's been too long since we had a nice family dinner." Emma didn't say a word, but I saw the way she was eyeing them, skeptical, guarded. We sat down, made small talk. Work. Liam's school. Weather. The kind of shallow chatter you use to fill silence. And for a while, it felt normal. Until it didn't. Halfway through the meal, Dad cleared his throat, his fork clinking against the plate. "So, Justin, we've been having some real trouble lately. Things are tight financially. It's been hard to keep up with expenses since you, stopped helping out. My fork froze midair. Appetite gone. Across the table, Emma shot me that look, the one that screamed, called it. Mom jumped in quickly, her hands fluttering like she was trying to smooth the words out of the air. We know we haven't handled things well before, but maybe we can find some middle ground. We're not asking for much. Just enough to get us back on our feet. Maybe you could pay the garage rent again? I took a long, slow breath, trying to keep my cool. Are you serious? You invited us here to ask for money. Again. No, Mom insisted, waving her hands frantically. We also wanted to apologize. But, we do need help, Justin. You know how hard this has been for us. Emma slammed her fork down before I could respond. Oh, come on. You're not sorry. You just want to guilt us into paying your bills again. That's exactly why we didn't trust you in the first place. Dad's eyes narrowed. You don't understand, Emma. You've never been responsible for this family the way Justin has. He knows how important it is to keep things running smoothly. Emma leaned forward, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Don't you dare pull that crap on me. Just because Justin helped you doesn't mean you get to use him like your personal bank. We're not kids anymore. You don't get to manipulate us. That's when Mom's mask slipped? Her voice rose, shrill and bitter. You think you're better than us now? After everything we sacrificed for you? And this is how you repay us? Turning your backs on your own parents? I pushed back my chair and stood. Sacrifices? You don't see us as family, you see us as your meal ticket. We came here thinking you wanted to fix things. But all you care about is money. Justin, wait, Dad started, but I cut him off. No. We're done here. Emma was already on her feet, grabbing her coat. You can keep pretending to be the victims, she snapped, but we're not falling for it anymore. We walked out without looking back. I slammed the door behind us, the sound echoing in my chest like a final answer. As we reached the car, Emma let out a half laugh, half sigh of pure frustration. Unbelievable. They really thought we'd just cave. They always do, I muttered. But not this time. And for the first time in a long while, I felt something shift. Like the ground was finally steady beneath my feet. For once, we were the ones in control. They could scheme. They could guilt. They could play the victim all they wanted. But Emma and I? We weren't going to let them win. For a little while after that disastrous dinner, everything went quiet. Too quiet. I actually let myself believe maybe my parents had finally gotten the message. But of course, that was wishful thinking. About a week later, I got a message from my mom. It was long, pages of rambling nonsense. Passive-aggressive digs tucked between self-pity and veiled threats. One line stood out, since you and Emma clearly don't value family anymore, we have no choice but to make some hard decisions. Then came the punchline. They were considering cutting us both out of the will. She wanted me to know, loud and clear, that if we didn't come to our senses, we'd inherit nothing when they were gone. I couldn't help it, I laughed. Out loud. It was so perfectly on brand for them, trying to dangle some imaginary fortune over our heads like we'd come crawling back. I called Emma right away and read the message to her. She was howling before I even finished. Wait. You mean the will that probably includes Mom's collection of chipped teacups and Dad's pile of broken tools in the garage? Oh no. However will we survive without those riches? I was laughing too hard to even respond at first. Exactly. It's just another play. They're out of tricks, and this is the best they've got. Emma's voice softened then. Let them write us out, Justin. It doesn't matter. They never cared about us as people, only about what we could give them. After that, neither of us bothered to respond to their threats. For the next couple of weeks, texts still trickled in, it's not too late to make things right. Family is forever. All the classic lines. But when they realized we weren't biting, the messages stopped. And just like that, it was over. No more calls. No more guilt trips. No more manipulation. At first it felt strange, like stepping out of a noisy room into silence. But then, it felt good. Liberating. For the first time in years, I wasn't weighed down by their constant demands. I could breathe again. Life started to shift. Work picked up in a good way, Liam seemed happier, and Emma and I grew closer than ever. Without our parents pulling strings, we finally had the space to support each other freely, without the burden. Then, something I didn't expect happened. I met someone. Her name was Tessa. She was smart, grounded, and kind in a way that felt new. We met through mutual friends at a party, and from the first conversation, I felt lighter around her, like she wasn't just listening, she understood. The best part? Liam adored her. At first, he'd been nervous about me dating again. But Tessa had this way of making him feel comfortable right away. She'd sit on the floor and play board games with him, help him with his homework without making it feel like homework, even take him on little adventures to the park. One night, after dinner, Liam looked up at me with those big eyes and asked, Dad, do you think Tessa could be my new mom someday? My throat tightened. His biological mother had left us years ago, moved on, built a different life, barely kept in touch. I had done everything I could to fill that void, but I knew deep down, he wanted more. I don't know, buddy, I said softly, ruffling his hair. But I do know she really cares about us. Let's just see what happens. He smiled, satisfied, and that was enough for now. As the months passed, Tessa and I grew closer. I started to see a real future with her. It wasn't perfect, life never is, but it felt stable. Healthy. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. Liam had stability. Emma had her freedom. And I finally had peace of mind. As for my parents, they stayed quiet. They'd made their choice, and I had made mine. I didn't need their approval, their inheritance, or their endless guilt. I had something better. I had my family, the one I chose, the one I built. And for the first time in my life, that was more than enough. That's how my story ends. No more drama. No more strings attached. Just a clean break. And a fresh start.